back on this Tuesday. All right, welcome. I don't know what that was.
What the heck was that?
I have no idea. I have no idea what that was.
You lost it.
I tried to work it into the song. It was bad. It was bad. Yes, I'll admit that. Welcome back, everybody. Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis with you, Sports Take. Hey, if you want to keep telling us what you do every day, I love it. Brendan, who's a good viewer of the show, we appreciate Brendan. Just checking in. Walk my dog. Wow, runs 5 to 6 miles in the morning and positive mindset. Amen.
See,
Amen,
therapeutic.
Cool.
The operative word in your vocabulary needs to be therapeutic. You need something therapeutic in your life other than eating dry Cheerios and working 7 days a week. You do.
I agree.
Life will drive you crazy enough as it is.
I promise to start incorporating some things, and I'll keep you posted. And I'll tell you what works for me and what doesn't work for me. We can help people here, hopefully. Yeah, that's good.
We need to bring Maggie into this because I don't trust you telling us the truth.
No, okay. That's all right. Well, I will. If I'm woodworking, my buddy woodworks.
Woodworking.
Father Sean said woodworking. My buddy loves it. He started doing it like my buddy Cal, who checks in. He lives in Ireland now. He started doing it a couple years ago, and he loves it. So yeah, absolutely. That's good. I like it, folks. Yeah, you want to keep it going.
Stuff like, even painting. Your wife's been griping at you to paint a certain room, or whether it's trimming woodwork or something like that. That's therapeutic.
I'm pretty good. I am a decent painter. I don't have a lot of skills, but it's one thing I do. Painted the kids' rooms and a bunch of other stuff around the house over the years. All right, so offensive storylines here for the Eagles. We just kind of covered the first one. How much can Hurts get better, etc. I want to hit you with this one, Derek, because I think we all feel pretty good, although there is the injury thing out there. But they're really going to work the committee thing here at running back. Is this kind of where we're trending in the league, you think, getting away from the bell cow? And what are the keys to making this thing work with this group? Because you have very different skill set, great skill sets, but different with DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. Certainly your top two guys. One's a power guy with Penny, who's been over the years, I think he's a 5.7 yards per carry average, which is excellent. Yeah. And then you have DeAndre Swift, who can break one. We saw it against the Eagles in the opener. He can break off big ones, and he can certainly catch the ball. So what are you thinking here in terms of the committee?
Well, more and more teams have started to do this for years now, trying to give defenses a change of pace, different looks. I mean, when you look across the board, last year you had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. You had 16 1,000-yard rushers in the NFL. But the 1,000-yard rushers like Tony Pollard ran for 1,007 yards on 193 carries. Najee Harris of Pittsburgh had 1,034 yards, 272. Tyler Algier for Atlanta had 1,035 and 210.
He's a good player. He's going to get pushed to the back burner, Derek, with Bijan being there. He's a good player.
I think the days that we see, Josh Jacob with 340, Derrick Henry 349, Nick Chubb 302. Those days. Even when Nick Chubb is a dominant runner, he still had Kareem Hunt as a change of pace for a number of years. Yep. I think it's imperative. If what we hear is true and what we see, the moniker that, hey, good running backs in the National Football League are a dime a dozen, well, there are a number of teams out there that are showing that you can have 2, 3 running backs. Kansas City is a prime example of that. They don't care about a 1,000-yard rusher. They care about having a strategic type of running back for a certain play or a certain series of plays. Right. And I think you've started to see that. Green Bay, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. You got a battering ram between the tackles, and you got a home run hitter.
That's a good example. Yeah.
And you're seeing that across the board. Even Buffalo, teams like Buffalo, New England has been known for that for years, of having different types of running backs. Tampa Bay, and even in their heyday. It bodes well for the running back in terms of less wear and tear on their bodies. But as we're finding out, because it's put out there that good running backs are a dime a dozen, it is costing them financially. But the better teams across the board, I mean, there are very few teams like the Eagles that can go 4 deep. Usually, if you can go 3 deep in the backfield, it's pretty good. We slowly saw the emergence of Tony Pollard in Dallas and the decline of Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas. But they were a great 1-2 punch. They complemented each other very well. So at least the minimum of dual running backs has become more prevalent in the National Football League over the last decade.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that is the way it's trending. And frankly, it's cheaper. It's cheaper when you have multiple guys who aren't maybe going to have insane numbers. It's a way to also keep those guys in place. Like, I think we sort of automatically assume that these guys are just going to move on after this year. I don't know that. I mean, they could bring them back and it cost them a little bit more, but they could both be back. You know what? The other part of it too is, and I don't know that these guys, either one of them are thinking this way, Derek, but this may help elongate both of their careers. Rashad Penny and Swift have both missed a lot of time. Maybe if they're not features, this will buy them a couple extra years of, frankly, getting paid in the NFL. You don't know that.
You hope so. You hope so for their sake. But here's what's going to happen. If they both have good years here, wherever they go after this, because we know the Eagles are not going to pay a top dollar to keep a running back, then they're going to go back into that pit again of being overused to a certain degree. See, very few backs are the size of a Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry can sustain it a little bit better than a Josh JAKIB and those guys because he's such a bigger body. That man's like almost 250 pounds. Whereas a Josh JAKIB might be 215, 220. He's a battering ram now, but as we've seen with an Ezekiel Elliott, a 220 back nowadays, you carry the ball 300 times, all of a sudden by your 6th, 7th year,
you're cooked.
It takes you a little bit longer to recover from injuries. You're not getting as many touches, and all of a sudden you're phased out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your yards per carry goes down. Now, I apologize. I didn't see who asked it because it's already gone off of my screen, but the question was, who do you guys think has more pressure on them this year, Mike McCarthy or Nick Sirianni? All right, so for starters, both have pressure on them. I mean, Sirianni's coming off the Super Bowl. There's high expectations. They're considered the number 2 team odds-wise behind the Chiefs, number 1 team in the NFC. There's certainly a lot of pressure on Sirianni. Here's why I say there might be a little bit more on McCarthy, because Jerry Jones gave him exactly what he wanted. He's now calling the plays. There's no more buffer where you can blame Kellen more or whatever. Like, if this offense either doesn't look good or there's boneheaded stuff late in games, which has been his MO, it all falls on him. And it's yet another year where the Cowboys wouldn't advance far. Jerry gets another year older and a little bit more impatient. Weirdly enough, I might go McCarthy in this one. I think both are under pretty decent pressure, though.
I think it's hands down McCarthy, more so than Nick Sirianni. At least Nick Sirianni has taken this team to a Super Bowl in a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. If Nick Sirianni only won 10, 11 games this year, and even if he finished second in the division, I don't think his job's in jeopardy this year, because they will sit behind closed doors and they'll try to find a way to retool and make the thing better. Mike McCarthy has had talent down in Dallas. Look at his playoff record. They can't get past the first round. They're inconsistent. And when he's called the plays, they've made boneheaded mistakes in crucial situations. I think the fan base in Dallas is basically at wit's end with Mike McCarthy. Now they're on pins and needles because he's going to be calling the plays, especially after watching some of the things he allowed to happen in recent past years. I think it's not even close that Mike McCarthy is under much more pressure than Nick Sirianni at this stage.
And let's face it, as I just mentioned, I mean, they were a high-scoring team too last year. It's not like this offense didn't score a lot of points.
Right.
You go out, you get Brandon Cooks, to an already, deep receiving core with CeeDee Lamb. So, yeah, he's got a lot of pressure on him for sure. And that's the big thing. It's like basically, all right, man, here, it's all you. You got it. You're going to get all the glory or all the heat. And that's kind of where he's at right now. All right, back to the Eagles question. So let's go receiver. How much better in your estimation can A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith get? Let's start with the 2 big boys.
Jeez. In terms of route running, catch radius ability, I don't think you can get much better. And see, here again, it falls into the category of what do they think they need to get better at. From our eye view, they're at their best right now. You have 2 1,000-yard receivers in the same offense. What more can you expect of them? You know what they're capable of doing. Are they going to be better? Are we going to measure better in terms of Did they improve their catch numbers? Did they improve their yard numbers? No, that's not fair because they're already at the top of their games, even at this. And think they're both young players, 25, 24 years old. I don't know, to be honest, I don't know how much better they can be. I mean, A.J. Brown only had 88 catches. And when we say, it's funny you say only 88 when you look at some of the top receivers in the game, 95, 105. You look at Devontae Adams, 123. Cooper Kupp, well over 100 catches in 1,000 yards. How much better can you expect an A.J. to be with 88 catches? Devontae Smith continues to get better every year. Look from his rookie year to last year how much he improved. I don't think it can be determined in terms of volume of numbers. It's can they maintain that consistency?
Yeah.
I think that's what it boils down to. And I have no questions based on what we watched over a 20-game sample last year that these two players are going to be in the top 12, top 15 at their positions in the National Football League because of the structure of their offense and because of the ability they've already shown.
Yeah, and think about this too. Just specifically this year, you have A.J. Brown, you have Devontae Smith, you have Dallas Goedert, you likely have DeAndre Swift catching balls out of the backfield. You may not have the insane volume of catches that let's just say some team just has one great receiver and you're going to just work him. You're just going to keep throwing it to him all the time. Numbers can be misleading. Yes. You're right. You could see AJ have a much better year and be down 4 catches, 5 catches.
Absolutely.
And is that yards per catch go down a yard or 2 or whatever? That doesn't mean he's having a worse year. It doesn't. I do think Devontae will have a couple more catches and his yards per catch will go up a little bit. I do believe that with him. Where you might see him get a little bit more is maybe a couple more touchdowns than he had last year. I think both players will improve, but you may not be able to tell it through numbers. Okay. I really believe that. But let's stay on that for a minute, Derek. There's only one number that matters to me for Dallas Goedert. 17. I want him to play 17 games. I don't want to see 12 games again or 13 games. I don't want to see him miss 4 or 5 games like he generally has. I'm not faulting him. It's just the way it's gone, but he needs to stay on the field if he wants to be considered in the Kelsey Kittle elite category.
Well, even Kittle has missed games because of he's such a physical player. And Kelsey, Goddard is such a physical player. You put your body on the line like that in the blocking game as well as the pass catching game. You keep the legs churning, you're taking extra hits. If they can keep Goddard healthy for a full 17 games, that means other people's numbers are going to come down because his numbers are going to have to increase because he's such an integral part of that offense, especially if the offensive coordinator identifies we have a severe advantage with our tight end lineup on this outside linebacker with this safety, this slot corner, whoever the case may be. He could be in there's going to be games when he might be the leader in total catches and total yards. Mm-hmm. Which means A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith numbers could come down a little bit. Doesn't mean it got worse. It got worse. It just shows you how diversified this offense can be. Yeah. How many pass catches are Devontae Swift, Penny, Gainwell going to get out of the backfield? Even Boston Scott if he's in the game. The number balance is going to be it's going to balance out a little bit more. Yep. If you have 4 guys catching 75 passes and you're still one of the top passing offenses in the National Football League, does that mean that your primary players got worse? No. Right. It means you were able to spread the wealth that much better.
Exactly. And I know a lot of people in the chat, Steve, among them, and you guys are right. Tyler, you're right. Kenny Gainwell's going to get his touches too.
Yes.
So that's okay. Like, this is a good thing. When you have options like this and you have guys getting their touches and getting theirs, it may come at the cost of the individual numbers, but who cares? Who cares? As long as you're winning football games. Like, I don't think here's the good thing, honestly. Like, I don't see Jalen or I don't know the running backs that well yet, but I don't think either one of those guys are going to care if there's a game where he's maybe not getting a ton of touches or whatever. Like, I think these guys are just all about winning. And I do believe that, especially when you got as close as you got last year with the players who are still here. All right. Regards to Kelsey and Lane, the two older guys on the offensive line. Can they maintain their high level of play? And when we say high, Derek, we're talking about the elite of their position in terms of the best center in the game. You could absolutely argue Kelsey, and the best tackle, either side of the ball, either side of the line, in Lane Johnson. So in your estimation, are they going to be able to maintain that high level of play, those two older guys?
Absolutely. Because, see, the more you play the game, the more you develop a so-called cheat sheet. What you may lose a step here or there, you learn in little tactics and how to get the advantage of the guy lining up across from you. You know, I don't see any tailing off whatsoever in Lane Johnson. And there's a pride factor involved. You're talking about two guys that take pride in the fact that they are considered the best among the best. I think Jason Kelce is honest enough with himself that if he felt that he couldn't do it again, he would not be here, to be honest with you.
Yep.
It's not about a dollar for either one of those guys. It's about the camaraderie. It's about the competitive nature of what they do. Plain and simple. And because they both feel they can still play at a high level is the reason why they continue to do this. And they will be in discussion all season long about being the best of the best because they have mastered the art of every technique you can think of to gain the advantage against an opponent.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I don't, obviously you can't contend or account for injuries, right? But if you're just talking about two guys who stay healthy, I don't have any doubt they're going to play at an extremely high level. All right, right guard spot. By all accounts, it's been Juergens' job to lose. He's been out there every single time. He's done a nice job so far. It feels like unless he really starts to slip here, this isn't going to be much of a competition that they want him to win this job. And I don't think that's going to change. I think they would prefer Steen learns this year. Maybe does that cross-training, Derek, that Stoutland does with them where he gets the tackle and the guard spot down. Let him get a little bit of time to learn. If Kelce retires next year, Juergens goes back to center, and boom, Steen's ready to roll. I think they would prefer that Juergens wins the job this year, though. That's
one of the headline stories that we'll be watching. I thought it was so telling when Nick Sirianni said Juergens is our starting right guard today.
Mm-hmm.
As of now, today. Yep. It's an ongoing developing story. And you have to wait until you see it in a real game before you make a determination. Who knows? Maybe it doesn't hold up. I mean, they're going to find out. They're going to find out a lot of things against the two opponents that they face in the controlled scrimmages in the preseason. I would imagine Juergens is going to get X amount of reps. I don't think the starters will get a lot of reps, but I do think Juergens needs to get those reps to get more comfortable in what they're going to ask him to do at that position. Not a lot of reps in the preseason. You don't want your frontline guys out there. But I think they're going to do everything within their power to give him those reps to make him as comfortable as possible. You look at your options beyond him, it's a Jack Driscoll. It could be Dennis Kelly. It could be Tyler Steen. All three are bigger bodies. But the luxury anybody who steps in that spot has is that you're playing with two Pro Bowlers and two future Hall of Famers on either side of you.
Yeah.
So I think right now, as we see it, and it's going to be a day-to-day developing story that has to be closely watched. Rightfully so, Sirianni worded it perfectly. He's not my starting center for the entire season. He's my starting right guard the entire season.
Now.
He's my starter right now.
Yep. Well said. And that keeps everybody on notice. Nothing's a given.
Absolutely.
All right. I meant to bring this up with you with Goddard, but let me just swing back to this real quick. The backup tight end position. It's funny. We talked to a bunch of different people about this, Derek, over the summer, leading into this, and we've gotten a couple different answers from people. I think it was, I'm trying to remember maybe it was Sal or somebody else. I forget. And Sal Palantonio, who we had on. And I said, who do you think the number 2 is going to be? And he thinks it's Dan Arnold. Now, there are other people that'll tell you it's Stoll.
That's what I said.
Yeah. And other people will say Calcaterra because he's that threat down the field. I think this thing's up for grabs. I mean, Stoll, what you're getting. He's going to block. He's going to be solid. He's not going to do a ton after yards after catch or any of that. He's not going to get down the field much, but he's going to block. Arnold is a big boy. Okay. He's a big body, a guy who's been around, certainly has the experience factor over everybody there. And Calcaterra is the most athletic of the group. And there's still Tyree Jackson, by the way, who's still there. But let me just remind everybody, Arnold's 6'6", 240. That's a large dude, as potential target. So what are you thinking here? You thinking Arnold?
I've said Arnold since May, and I'm going to stick with that. But here's the interesting thing, Rob. When you look at him in his 7-year career, he only has 95 catches in 7 years. He only has 1,258 yards in 7 years. He only has 7 touchdowns. He hasn't had a touchdown catch since 2020. His last season, he's gone over in terms, but he only played 3 games with the Carolina in 2021, and then he went to Jacksonville. He played 8 games, so he played 11 games that year for a grand total of 35 catches. Mm-hmm. I think he's more of an accomplished blocker than a pass catcher. Now, I will add this caveat: if Calcaterra can improve his blocking tremendously, I think he will leapfrog into that number 2 category. Mm-hmm. He has to improve in his blocking category. He can stretch the field. He can get downfield. He can get away from coverage. No question about that. Stoll is more of a possession receiver and a better blocker. I like Arnold just because of his 7 years of experience in the National Football League, or 6 years of experience in the National Football League. Okay. But I think Calcaterra, to me, is the X factor in terms of being a complete tight end if he can improve significantly in the blocking area.
Interesting little note. I'd always like to peruse this stuff and just see what the guys who were there, the beat writers and all that kind of stuff, who were at camp today and at practice today. So Jeff McClain, who we've had on the show quite a bit, said that tweeted out long after the Eagles left the field and the fans departed, Jordan Davis walked back into an end zone at the NovaCare complex and ran gassers with 2 younger players. With his 2 younger brothers, Donovan, who's 12, and Yashi, who's 10. And he was asked who won. Jordan said they both said, in other words. But that's good. I mean, look, the kid's working, right? I mean, he's out there busting it. He's doing gassers after practice. I like that.
Yes. You got a 340-pound frame. You need to be in tip-top shape. And if he's taking that upon himself to get out there and build up his endurance and his win, more power to him. Yeah. Hopefully the right people are getting in his ear. Hey, look, dude, you understand how much you're being counted on here? This is not just about 4 starters or 5 stars. This is about a rotation that there is no weak link across the board, and you are a definitive part of this rotation. So I like the fact that he's putting in the extra time, to see where he is. Hopefully it bodes well for him. I would imagine there's a comfort level also when you look at the number of Georgia players on that defense now. There's got to be motivation with him. These guys get together. Hey, look, man, look at what we did at Georgia. People always talk about players coming out of Alabama and what they do when they hit the pros. We got 4 of us that have been on a national championship team together. We know what it takes. Maybe they motivate each other. Yeah. Maybe that's something we haven't even talked about that much, about how the Georgia players on this defense get in there and help motivate each other because they came from such a high-profile program.
That's a good point.
If that is the case, whatever gets Jordan Davis to that next level, to be a disruptive factor on that defense, I'm all for it.
I said to you when I was watching that thing, like, how about them dogs or something? It's called Them Dogs on ESPN. It was SEC Network.
Yeah,
yeah, it was good. But what I thought was interesting and an advantage maybe to the younger guys, this applies specifically to Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, not Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. But those 2 know what it was like to repeat last year. They know what it was like to get all the way there the year before and then dial it up again to have to go back and defend your title, and maybe some of that helps, at least from a mindset standpoint. Maybe some of the rookies could pass something on to some of the veterans. I don't know. I mean, just a thought. It can't hurt. But when you come from winning programs, much is expected of you. And that's the great thing about going these routes with the Georgia, Alabama guys. I mean, think about the way that Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith were trained at Alabama. And now same thing with Georgia. Like, these dudes are ready. They have the mindset of winners. And that's a big thing. It is a very, very big thing. All right, we'll come back.
Not only as much expected of you, but even more should be expected of yourself, because you know what it takes to be the best of the best.
Yeah.
The big dilemma is, how quickly can they make that transition to play at that high level consistently at this level? Because whereas when you compare your stats against weak sisters in college football, that's not necessarily the case in the NFL, because even a weak sister has a multitude of quality players on it. It just hasn't come together for them. And so it's a lot different in terms of maintaining that level of success at this level or achieving that level of success at this level.
Yeah, no, listen, you're right. You are absolutely right. Well, the good thing is those two guys I just referenced can talk to Nakobe Dean, and can talk to Jordan Davis and get a good handle on what it's like to be a pro. So I think that part of it helps that those guys are all that tight. Apparently they are. They have these group texts that they do and all that other stuff. That's great. All right, your call here, D-Gun. You want to keep rolling with the football talk, or you want to talk a little baseball, because we are now under 5 hours until the trade deadline, and the Phillies have not made a move yet. Where do you want to go next? I'm going to make you are the director of the train right now.
Let's get the baseball talk in there, and we got plenty to talk about football.
All right,
so let's get the baseball talk in there, and if something happens in baseball, we'll get to it. All
right. So where are we going next? Football?
Yeah.
Okay, football.
No, the baseball. Let's get to baseball.
I got you. All right. So what we're doing today in our greatest series is the Colts. There's some studs. Okay. There are some beasts in this one. Okay. These are heavyweights for the Colts. So we're going to do that. We'll get more into what Brian Johnson had to say. We got a lot of stuff in our NFL segment, including some injury updates, which we'll pass along as well. We'll do all that. But when we come back, Phillies win last night. And what are they going to do here at the trade deadline? Because this could be the difference between sort of teetering and maybe pushing them over the top. So we'll do that when we get back. Don't go anywhere. He's Derek. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with your finances can be a very scary proposition. And I'm right there in the front of the line with you. But I can tell you from personal experience that I trust my finances, my hard-earned money, with Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group. Whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review, you might have a small business, you're trying to get your employee benefits off the ground, Jim can help you with all that and more. Look, if there's something you've been wondering about or something you're not quite clear on with what you have now, you can reach out to Jim and talk to him. And he can give you the information that you need. And so you can dive into this thing, having a better understanding of all of it. I know personally, I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers to Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. Or you could email him, Murray, MURRAY.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com.